year 2025. So just to introduce myself, my name is Christina Dax. I'm the project manager of the BIC Africa project. I'm here today with my colleague David Dagne, who's the communication manager of BIC Africa, Catherine Delavoye, our expert trainer today from Technoport, a business incubator in Luxembourg. Thank you very much, Catherine, for being here today and delivering this exciting session. And Douglas Thompson from SPI, who will be also moderating the session. So just to start, first of all, I will make a short introduction about the BIC Africa project for those who are not yet familiar with it, and then we will deep dive into the content and then hand over the word to Catherine. Thanks a lot. So if you could go to the next slide, please, Catherine. Thank you. So just a few words. So actually, yes, previous slide. Sorry, I think the screen is a bit slow.
There is a delay, maybe.
Sorry. Thanks a lot. Okay, perfect. So to start with, it is the organization European Business and Innovation Center Network, EBN, that we are representing with David, and we are actually the coordinators of the BIC Africa project. So EBN is based in Brussels, in Belgium, and actually it started itself as an EC-funded pilot project back in 1985, when the aim was to create a network of business incubators in Europe and beyond Europe that support basically innovative entrepreneurs and startups. So today we deliver really a wide range of various technical business support services, but one of our let's say core services is what we call quality assessment and certification. So basically, we certify our members based on a questionnaire that they fill out. The idea is to give an EU BIC label, what we call a Business Innovation Center label, to those incubators in Europe and beyond who really meet the quality standard and meet the criteria that we require. To demonstrate that they're really a robust and qualitative business support organization that provides quality services to various startups and entrepreneurs. So as such, our EU BICs, our certified members, they really provide a complex spectrum of entrepreneurial innovation support, including incubation, internationalization services, access to funding, and so on. Next slide, please. Thank you. So BIC Africa itself is part of an EU program that is called Support to Entrepreneurship and MSME Creation. And it actually this program consists of 5 separate country projects, the aim of which is to establish and consolidate business incubators in their respective countries, with the long-term aim and goal to foster job creation and sustainable livelihoods. So as you can see also on the map, there is a project in Angola, which is implemented by IFC, which is part of the World Bank, a project in Comoros, Madagascar, Somalia. All those 3 projects are actually implemented by UNIDO, and a project in Ethiopia that is implemented by SEQUA. And beyond these 5 different country projects, BIC Africa is the 6th project that aims to establish as such a regional network, aims to interconnect these 5 country projects and to create synergies between them, and to provide additional complementary capacity building and networking support to business incubators in the region, and also software networking services. Next slide, please. So about our beneficiaries, so we work directly with business incubators in these 5 countries. But of course, all our activities in the end are for the benefit of entrepreneurs, SMEs, and startups in these countries. And along the way, we also work with numerous other stakeholders. We work closely, for example, with the EU delegations in each of these countries, with policymakers, universities, investors, and so on. Really, we try to involve the ecosystem in each of these countries that we are working in. Next slide, please. Okay, and just to give you a bit more idea on the type of services that we offer to the business incubators in each of these country projects. So first of all, we have capacity building and skill development services. So the virtual training center that this session today is part of is one of our capacity building services for business incubator managers from the 5 countries, but also beyond. I'm sure some of you here today are probably from other sub-Saharan African countries. But the aim is, really to increase the capacities through these online sessions. And beyond that, we have also what we call 5 national and 2 African boot camps. So in these cases, it's more closed. We provide this service directly to the incubators that are involved in each of the country projects. But the idea is to increase capacities on specific topics related to best practices in business incubation, such as financial management of business incubators, setting up a mentorship program, and other various topics that are of interest. We usually involve expert trainers for this type of live activities. Then another service that we provide are connection services. Yeah, sorry, the slide jumped there. What we call soft landing services and staff exchange program. Here, the idea is to establish collaboration between business incubation managers from Africa and from Europe. So some of our incubator managers, for example, from Angola, from Comoros, are traveling to Europe to spend about a week's time at an incubator over here, and the idea is to establish a collaboration for them to learn from each other, to see what models could be also applicable in their home countries and so on. And the staff exchange is very similar. The difference is, of course, that this is between business incubator managers from different African countries. So, for example, we had an exchange between Comoros and Madagascar, whereby the incubator managers from Comoros spent a few days' time at their peers' organization in Madagascar and learned about the different challenges, the similar problematics that they had. So next, there is also what we call BIC Africa quality assessment activities. So this is based on the quality certification model that I was talking about before that we have in EBN. We are trying to see if similar quality standard evaluation could be also applicable in the African context. We also have various services related to exchanges and cooperation. So for example, we have diaspora webinars where our aim is to connect successful entrepreneurs from the diaspora who are based in Europe or in the US with entrepreneurs from Africa, as such, sharing their success stories, possibly serving as mentors, and just establishing a connection, basically. So as you can see, most of these services are really targeted at business incubators that we are working with in scope of the 5 projects. Some of them, as the session today, is open more widely to also business incubators from other sub-Saharan African countries. We don't limit the virtual training center. And in some cases, we also work directly with entrepreneurs. So that's the case of the diaspora webinars. And moreover, we have an acceleration program for female entrepreneurs. That's our only service that is really directly targeting entrepreneurs. If you want to find out more about it, we have We have posted various news items on our website and social media channels. So feel free to have a look, and feel free to follow us on our social media channels just to be updated on our latest activities and events. So I think that's all from my side. I hope that that gives a picture of what we're trying to do in BIC Africa. And I'm happy to hand over the word now to Catherine. Thanks a lot, Catherine.
Well, thanks a lot, Christina, for this introduction, which actually was also a nice introduction to our topic of today, which is related to how business incubators can create some connections and collaborations with all the stakeholders in order to be in a better position to serve their incubatees. So first of all, let me recap the objective of the session. We are trying to support you in identifying some stakeholders you may be willing to partner with. And also, the session will be very much oriented towards identifying the kind of partners that can help you in better serving the needs of your incubatees, meaning that if your incubatees are facing some specific challenges because there are some gaps in your ecosystem, the partnership strategy is a good way to fulfill these gaps and try to find from partners the resources and the skills that you may not have in your own ecosystem. I will try to give you many examples from my own projects and networks to showcase and illustrate the kind of partners I am working with. If you would like, after the session, to be put in touch with some of them, you are very welcome to tell it, because I can and I will be very glad to introduce you to some specific people I can connect you with. But this is also food for thought, so that you can possibly identify other stakeholders with a similar offer in your own ecosystem or abroad that you can use in order to develop your products and services for the incubatees. So a few words about myself. I'm Catherine Delevoye. I work at a business incubator just like you. So Technoport is in Luxembourg, so the middle of Western Europe, a very small country. So we don't focus on agriculture only. We do a lot of technology development in a number of different verticals. My role in the incubator is to be involved in international partnerships. And this is where I have a lot of connections related to agriculture, because I work a lot in programs with Africa, but also Sri Lanka, India, South America, and the Middle East. And there I have some projects and programs that are specifically related to agriculture and agri-tech. My role at Technoport is also to provide support to the incubatees. So I work in close relationship with our incubated businesses. And I also try, as I mentioned earlier, to always create bridges between the portfolio companies we have in the incubator and the partners that we have for the organization itself. The agenda is that we will have 2 slots of more or less 1 hour and 15 minutes, and we will make a 20 minutes break in between. I will first give you an overall introduction to the kinds of partnerships that the business incubators can seek and have. Then I will provide some data about the partnership practices in different ecosystems. The data comes from my own network, so benchmarking is a big word, but I just wanted to illustrate what other people were doing in different regions. And we can compare, in fact, the kind of partnerships they have with your own practices, so that possibly we can identify if you are all acting the same way, or if some people are doing something new or different that you may possibly implement as well. Finally, as mentioned earlier, I will give you examples and partnership options that will be related to really solve what I think are key challenges that are experienced by agribusinesses worldwide. If you are facing other challenges, you are more than welcome also to say the kind of problems you have, and we will see which kind of partners can possibly support you. The methodology is that you are very welcome to interact, so do not hesitate to intervene anytime. You can raise your hand and you will be given the floor to ask a question or make a comment or share some practices. You can also use the chat. So Douglas will very kindly be our moderator today because I am presenting, so I cannot see the chat myself. But if you have any question, Douglas will pass them on to me. So let us start with the first part of the presentation, which is related to an overview of the kind of partners you may have as a business incubator. So in my opinion, there are basically 6 types of organizations you can work with. You can partner with some schools and universities. This is a good way to be connected to the young people and also to have access to some research results from universities that you may be willing to use and implement in your business services. You can also have a link, and you should have a close link to public institutions at national level, the ones that are making the policies in the field of agriculture, but also the international organizations such as the FAO, the European Union, or the United Nations, that have some specific programs in the field of agriculture that you may join and benefit from. Associations and NGO are necessary to be able to connect also with the citizens, the consumers of the products produced by your incubatees. So this is a way to do open innovation and community building at national level. The financial institutions are, I guess, core partners for you because you probably need some funding for your activities, and those are the ones that can support you when you incubatees with money. The research and technical organizations can do some technology transfer, but also bring some advice. You can have there some scientific, technical mentors for your incubatees that will provide solutions, but also do capacity building for you. And last but not least, the businesses are partners that you can consider. And here we have 2 kinds of partners available, either the large corporates or the smaller businesses. And you will see that I would encourage you personally to target both, with possibly a focus on small businesses, but I will come back to it. What is to be taken into consideration when you consider a partnership is really what you expect from the partnership. So every time you seek a partner, it should be related to a mission that you are fulfilling and for which you would like to get support. So some partners will be useful if you are active in the field of education, skill building for your incubatees, but some others will be nice to have for testing things on the ground. Certification partners can be useful if you are active in food processing, for instance, and you would like to improve the processes and have some certified ones so that you can go to the foreign markets. Access to new products and services is something important to innovate in the ecosystem with partners. They can also, of course, be coaches and mentors that you could hire in order to provide advice and guidance to your incubatees. Community building is also something that can be supported by partnership. This is something you can use if you are struggling a little bit to find some relevant projects in your ecosystems. Assume you don't have enough business ideas, or you have some business ideas that are not exactly the ones you would like to get because they are not enough technical solutions, for instance, in your ecosystem. The partners can fill in this gap and provide some different kind of businesses, products and services that will be a good complement to what you have in your own ecosystem. Access to finance, as mentioned earlier, is a must-have, so this is something you should try to get as much as possible. And last but not least, access to new markets and networks is something the partners can provide you with. And here, a key objective is really to open also your ecosystem and connect it to the other ones. And this is related to internationalization of your business incubator and internationalization of the services offered to the incubatees. So the partners can fulfill multiple roles, and it is important to use them to also shape and orientate the mission of your incubator, depending of the kind of organization you are willing to become in the future. You will have to favor some specific partners more than others. Assumed you would like to be more innovative, more technical oriented, then the universities can help you a lot. If you would like, in contrast, to have more a social mission and social impact, then the associations and the public institutions and the state are going to be your natural partners to achieve this mission. The private sector is good to have because they can provide revenues to your incubatees. And this is important because I think the best clients for incubators are businesses, and also the best source of revenues possibly are the revenues from the incubatees that can be given back to the incubator. But you can also consider to partner with investors that will bring money in the ecosystem in order to make your incubators more sustainable and powerful. Internationalization, I mentioned it earlier, is a very important topic in my opinion, not only because I'm in Luxembourg and we are very small. From a general point of view, it is considered a success factor for incubators to be able to go global and to be able to establish connections with some incubators and partners abroad for supporting better the ecosystems. On top of being able to diversify the ecosystem and innovate, on top of being able to have a strong community of stakeholders, it is considered very successful for an incubator to be able to be in those international programs and projects that will broaden the perspectives for the incubatees. The reason why you should have a mix of partners with foreign partners possibly is also because each partner has some benefits, but also some drawbacks. So if you have only one kind of partner, you may suffer a little bit from those drawbacks, which in my opinion, for the institutional enablers, for instance, are the fact that they are trying to fulfill typically a broad social mission, creating jobs or providing education to the people. And it is not exactly what you are willing to do yourself, because you will act at more micro level, and you may be willing to support your businesses in many different directions, not having to focus only on the social mission. So those partners can drive you into being a kind of organization that is not exactly a business incubator, turning you into, for instance, a training organization more than a business incubator. The research partners, they can provide good solutions, but there is often a gap between the way they work and what you expect from them. The solutions have to be adapted to the market. Sometimes they will have to be simplified, and that may be something the researchers may not be that good at doing, because they want to improve the scientific state of the art. So they are not very good always at providing very simple solutions that will solve the problems of the people on the ground. Financial partners are very, very important one, and you need them, so you cannot do without. The trouble here is that they expect typically something back from the investment, even if it is not profit. They will expect a social impact, which sometimes is going to be very big. They will be demanding in terms of the number of companies you work with, the sustainability of the businesses, the profit made by the incubatees, and so on. So the fact that you have to fulfill those expectations may put you a little bit under pressure, prevent you from having also the social mission you would like to have, and that may be difficult to address the requirements. The associations, they are very good because they are ground players, and this is a way to be really active in the markets. The drawback here is that you may end up with what we investors call a product line which is not clean, meaning you have to reinvent the wheel many times. Every time you enter into a new project with a new association, you have to meet new KPIs and to work with new people in a new field. And if you are in this situation, of course, it is putting pressure on your resources. They always have to adapt to something new. It would make your life easier if you would have long-term partners with whom you can work in a sustainable way. A mix of partners is also something that is important to get because it allows you to really shape your ecosystem. Because the idea in partnerships is to be able to change things, to go into a direction where you are willing to go. So it is important before you implement a partnership strategy to have a close look at what is available in the ecosystem and what is possibly missing. Here you have an example from Burkina Faso. We made this analysis. We could see that in the field of agriculture, we had a lot of producers and that the food processing facilities were okay, but we were missing, for instance, input suppliers. So those very important stakeholders in the value chain were not represented enough at national level. And this is where we have tried to establish partnerships in order to have access to this specific expertise and those specific products. A source that you shouldn't underestimate are the private businesses. Why I favor personally private businesses as partners, it is because they are indeed market players. It means they are inside the value chain. They are doing things on the ground. So it's very nice to have some skills and advice from other institutions outside of the value chain, but the ones that are really going to be able to change things are typically the ones that are active on the ground, but are on a daily basis are active in the field of agriculture, bringing new products, services, and solutions to the market. So I would strongly encourage you to work with the private businesses and consider them as some partners for your incubators. It is also important to have those businesses involved because, in my opinion, agribusiness incubation is a bit specific. In some specific verticals, you can work with public institutions and corporates, and you don't need that much the small market players. But agriculture is a vertical in which the value chains are very long, very complex. So you have a lot of people involved. So if you really want to create value at the end of the day, you will need the partners that all business incubators need to develop the entire business ecosystem as a whole from a general point of view. But you will also need the ones that are going to bring some very specific practical activities in which the incubators can be involved and that are going to change things in the supply chain. So a best practice is to try to prioritize your partners. Of course, you can be opportunistic. You can welcome partners that are willing to work with you and get the best you can get from them. But you can also proactively seek some new partners. And the ones I would encourage you to seek are the ones that can provide access to new technologies and products, the one that can bring access to revenues, so not only funding, but things that are going to bring revenues to the incubators. And last but not least, the ones that can provide access to some new markets and channels at national, but also at international level. This is considered, again, a best practice by UBI Global. So they do benchmarking of incubators worldwide. And as you can see, the ones that are very often quoted as very performant, here I give you an example of a Belgian incubator called IMEC. They are the ones that have some partners that are really relevant in terms of bringing services to the incubators directly. So they don't only have some financial partners that can finance the activities of a business incubator. They are not only involved in projects with some stakeholders as a business incubator, they are also able to create bridges, direct bridges between the incubators and other partners worldwide that can support them in enlarging and developing their offer. Of course, the business partners have also some drawbacks. So here you may think that the corporates are better than the small businesses because, of course, they have the human resources and financial resources needed to support the activities of the incubator and the incubatees. But beware that sometimes corporates, they have different goals than business incubators. They are a bit opportunistic, trying either to showcase that they are doing social impact and innovation, but on the ground, they don't really dedicate so many resources to the partnership, or they may, in contrast, involve a lot of resources in the partnership, but they will try to drive, the innovation from the ecosystem for their own benefit. So, of course, they are a bit interested in getting technologies and services for themselves more than serving the needs of the ecosystem. So the startup companies, in my opinion, are your natural targets because they are your peers, the ones you are working with on a daily basis, and you can understand each other and speak the same language. The problem here is that sometimes the small businesses, of course, have limited resources. So you may think, how can they partner with a foreign incubator and do something for me? The solution is to try to have access to the pre-qualified businesses that are already in a good position to go abroad and partner. So you need to find the ones that are already ready for soft landing programs, for instance. Soft landing programs are a very good way to make some exchanges with your other business incubators, and it is also a way to diversify ecosystem. If you have this problem that we had in Burkina Faso, that we had a lot of new entrepreneurs, a lot of young people willing to do things, very dynamic, very motivated, but the ones that didn't have so much experience in business, you can find through foreign incubators and accelerators some entrepreneurs that are more experienced and can be very good mentors for your incubatees. So I would really strongly encourage you to consider the soft landing programs, and I'm glad that BIC Africa is offering this kind of program. In fact, on top of capacity building, the beauty of this project is that they offer you access to networks and a lot of opportunities for exchanges with other incubators. And in my opinion, this kind of channel is a very good source of partners for your business incubator for the benefit of your incubatees. Soft landing programs are nice because they fulfill the need I mentioned before of agribusiness incubators, which is that you need both to change things at the level of policies, at the level of innovation from a general point of view, but also you need to be very active and at the side of your incubatees when they are struggling with some challenges in their daily activities. So this is a way to serve the micro needs of the ecosystems and the needs of yourself as an organization at the same time. You can exchange with your peers and get some best practices from them in terms of incubation, but you can also find some startup companies in the networks that are going to be useful for your incubatees. Now I come to practical examples of some people you can work with, because you may wonder where to find the startup companies and where to start, in order to identify people that can be helpful. So one good example of a nice partner to have is VC4A. You may know them already because they are very active in Africa. This is a network and platform that will give you access to some business professionals and companies worldwide, and they also provide access to mentors, investors, and other kind of experts. So this is one single place where you can find a lot of opportunities and partners that may be useful to you. So you can go on their website and try to check if anybody there would be relevant to you. And I would encourage you to proactively contact those people and ask them if they would be willing to enter into a partnership with you. International networks, of course, are of great added value as well. And you are very lucky because you are already part of a very nice network, which is BIC Africa. But there are also some other projects in which EBN and SPI as well are involved. And those projects can also provide some very good opportunities to identify some potential partners. I would like to give you as an example the project Enrich in Africa. The project is over, but the result of the project is that a physical center has been created, and the mission of the center is really to identify for business incubators in Africa and Europe some opportunities for collaborations. They have some training programs in which they find for you somebody who can be supportive of your activities, and they can also support you in finding some financing means for the collaboration. So those training programs, like the soft landing programs, are very nice to have in order to establish new partnerships for your organization. Foundations sometimes can be useful as well. Unfortunately, they don't always focus on bringing partners to the business incubators. Sometimes the incubators are just a gateway for the foundations to have access to communities of farmers or agribusinesses. But EU for Impact is really doing this job as as you can see, they are really willing to bring also some technical support and capacity building options to business incubators directly. So this is a way to find also some people, experts, organizations that can be helpful if you are willing to start a new service or a new kind of support to the incubators on the ground. Foundations can sometimes help you in making a project that will allow you to implement this new service to the incubators. If you don't have access to such financial partners that can be supportive of your partnerships and your business organization, and you wonder how to find money for a small business to work with you, I would like to stress that some cooperation agencies, and it is the case for Luxembourg, but also Belgium, for instance, a number of cooperation agencies have programs in which they provide this kind of funding. So you can have a company interested in working in Africa, exploring the African markets and making grand projects. This company can approach the cooperation agency and get funding in order to do something with a local organization. But doesn't need to be a company. It can be an association, a business incubator. So whatever your legal status is, you may benefit for such programs in order to collaborate with the private sector. Any questions at that time on this generic presentation of the partnerships and the benefits you may get from them?
Please do raise your hand or put the question in the
No,
text
otherwise,
and Catherine.
you will have further opportunities later on to ask questions, so we can go ahead. So the next thing I would like to present you is, as mentioned earlier, the data I got from my own networks about the kind of partnerships business incubators have in different regions. So let me start with the agribusiness incubators in Europe. As you can see, at least in my own networks, we can discuss about it. Maybe you have another view of the ecosystem because you work with different people. But in my own networks, the partnerships are quite business oriented. So we do a lot of partnerships with corporates. We do a lot also of exchanges with foreign incubators and startups. This is because organizations like EBN are very active and proactive in Europe, connecting us. And so we are used to make projects together and have some collaborations between business incubators. Another strong link in Europe is typically the one with the research and scientific organizations. A lot of incubators are connected to a university or research center. So if you are interested into finding some scientific partners, or if you would like to work with corporates and foreign incubators incubators in Europe, going through a local business incubator is probably a good way for you to identify some partnership opportunities. What about Africa? This is the situation in my own network, but I'm not active in all countries. So again, you will have to validate this data. But in my networks, the partnerships are very much oriented towards finding some funding for the activities, which is normal because unfortunately a number of business incubators don't get from the public institutions and the governments in their countries the kind of financial support we would require. So, of course, the partnerships are very much focused on making the business incubators sustainable. But a good thing in the African networks, and this is something you can offer to foreign partners, and that will be very interesting to them, is the strong connection towards associations and NGO. So the access to grant activities, access to communities of people, but allow really to test new things on the ground and to have an impact that it's maybe more difficult to establish in more major and less open innovation ecosystems. What I can see as well is a growing appetite for collaborations between incubators and between startup ecosystems, which is probably the result of a number of European projects that have been fostering exchanges like BIC Africa. In my opinion, this is a very positive thing because, again, the collaborations between incubators are, in my opinion, a good gateway to have access to the other partners. South America, to give you the full picture, highlighting practices in different regions, is more or less in the same situation as Africa in terms of funding. So the incubators are really investing a lot of resources in having access to financial partners, but they are also good, in my opinion, and this is something a bit specific, partnering with consultancy organizations. So if you're looking for experts that can provide advice, also people who can make some market studies, that can study your ecosystem, identify the gaps and so on, there you can find some very good organizations that will be supportive of this activity. And by the way, Douglas is working for such a consultancy organization, which is very active at doing some benchmarking activities worldwide. So this is really the kind of data you can use in order to build your partnership strategy in a way that is going to be highly oriented towards fulfilling the gaps. Southeast Asia, in my opinion, is very much business oriented. But the difference with Europe is that they are very demanding. They provide a lot of access to very good corporates, but they tend to be interested into more major companies, let's say scale up rather than startup. But they can be useful if you are willing to do acceleration programs, if you want to go in that direction to work with more major companies. And they are very good at building scouting programs for corporates that are very efficient. So again, if you would like to go in this direction, this is where you may find some best practices and examples of things you could do. Any questions on this data, which again is not fully objective, but just to give you some food for thought and an idea of what may be available. No, I don't hear any questions, so we can continue. Here I would like to get your support and input. I am going to ask you a few questions about your situation in terms of partnerships. As you can see, the first question is related to the types of partners you currently have, how many partners and what kind of partners. So please scan the QR code or copy the link provided in your browser, and hopefully you will be able to fill in the survey so that we have an idea of where you stand in terms of partnerships.
Just to inform, I put 2 links into the chat. I believe they're both the same. They should take you to the same page. If not, then please use the other one if you are having issues.
Okay, good. So we start to get some answers. That's very nice. So we can see that there are many partnerships with the schools and universities. This is really very good. Public institutions, the financial partners, but also research and technical organizations. So this is really very nice to have. So as we can see, what you may have less are no, but it's not that. Yes, school, universities, and financial partners are the most important ones. Corporates and consultancy groups are a bit less represented, but you already seem to have a good mix of partners. So we will come back to that later on, because this is good insights in order to know kind of gaps you may have in your ecosystems and kind of assets as well. So the second question is the kind of partners you are seeking. So do you miss anything? Is there any kind of partnership you would like to reinforce? So again, please scan the QR code or copy the link and let us know if there are some specific people you would like to further partner with at national or international level. Yes, so at the moment, a strong focus on associations and NGOs and financial institutions. Also, yeah, we scroll down. Also, a little bit of interest here in coaches, mentors, and corporates. Okay, so a mix of financial partners and also people that can provide grant support is expected from the audience. So I will try to give you some examples in all those different fields in which you are interested to develop your activities. Sorry, I have to. Trouble. No, okay. This is the last question I would like to ask you, third question, which is related to the kind of challenges you may face in your ecosystems, what kind of solutions you are trying to find for some specific challenges that your incubators may experience. So I list here some challenges that I saw in many projects I did in the field of agriculture. But please rank the challenges and let me know which ones are most relevant in your ecosystems, which ones you are facing. And you're welcome to add some challenges that may not be listed here if you have some. Okay, so more or less, yeah, all the challenges listed are being experienced to a certain extent in the ecosystem. But yeah, access to finance, access to technologies, and the lack of appropriate policies seem to be the most acute challenges being faced. So those are the challenges I am going to use in the following slides. And for each of those challenges, I will try to identify for you, with you, some partners that can be supportive. So it is very nice to know the kind of gaps experienced in your ecosystems. We will try to see how partnerships can help you to fulfill those gaps. Let me move on to the next slide, which is going to address one of challenges you may face, which is how you can build a better infrastructure, a better overall ecosystem and value chain for agriculture that will be beneficial to you incubatees. So the challenge here is that often the production and the consumption sites are disconnected in agriculture, meaning the production is rural, but the growing demand may come from the cities because of the trends towards urbanization. The consumers are more and more located far away from the production sites. So why is this a challenge? Because if you don't have appropriate infrastructure, so you don't have the storage facilities, the good transportation means you need to reach the consumers, the crops are going to be lost. And this is really an acute problem in some countries where up to 40% of the production is actually being lost due to damages that happens during storage and transportation. Before you can reach the consumer, you have lost a lot of your production. And of course, this is a serious problem for the farmers, even if the production is good. Because of this loss, they don't get decent revenues as a result of their production. So the partners that can help are the ones that can provide advice, mentoring, training, coaching programs in the field, sharing best practices with farmers so that they can have better practices on the ground. This is an example of a partner, which is in fact a company. They advise farmers everywhere in Africa about what they could do based on their specific crops they are growing in order to mitigate the problem of not having proper harvesting, drying, also storage techniques, so that at the end of the day, a lot of products are being lost. So here the consultancy organizations, the businesses with some solutions, are the one you can partner with in order to provide some training, coaching, mentoring programs to the incubatees. Another example of a partner that can be useful are all the marketplaces where the people are sharing resources. So the problem of the storage facilities, the problem of the equipment in agriculture is often that each single farmer is not able to buy the equipment they may need or to have access alone to the resources they need. So if you can share things with others and you can have a mutualized access to equipment and facilities, this is a way to solve a problem because you join forces with others. So this is an example of a marketplace where the farmers can find some storage facilities, but also have access to fertilizers, equipment, anything they may need for their business. This kind of marketplace and kind of solution technology is something you may consider to implement in your own ecosystem with partners in order to serve the needs of the incubators. Another example are some buildings, storage buildings that are accessible to African farmers. This is a company based in Luxembourg. What they do is they really make some buildings for agriculture that are sold in kits. They are very easy to build, but they are also very robust, so high quality buildings adapted to weather conditions that you may have in your ecosystems. And they are very, very successful on African markets with those buildings. They got support also from the cooperation agency in order to do projects in Africa. So if you're interested into having some buildings installed in some agro-poles in your country where your incubators are operating, this is also the kind of partner you can consider to provide access to better storage facilities. Another example is the sharing again of equipment and solutions, and this is targeting the specific challenge of cold storage, because this is typically a gap in the value chain and the supply chain in Africa. The fact that it's very difficult to maintain a cold chain all along the value chain before the product can reach the customer. So here you have a company with a nice business model because they don't expect the agribusinesses to invest each of them in their own cold storage facility. Again, they provide access to a pay-as-you-go business model with sharing of storage facilities. And those kind of practices and business model is something you may consider to implement in your own ecosystem, because it helps solving the problem of not having enough resources, financial resources, to have your own equipment. Another supplier which is interesting to have is a company that can also provide some storage facilities that will be self-funded, self-operated on a local level. Here you have a company making some solar-powered cold rooms. And what is relevant here is that you combine a need in the field of agriculture with a need possibly for access to energy sources in the rural areas. So the electricity produced by the solar-powered rooms can not only help having access to this kind of facility, but also possibly produce enough energy for serving other needs in the rural areas of the local businesses. So again, this company got funding from the cooperation agency to do things in Africa. So this partner is nice because they have the financial resources needed to finance their activities, meaning you will only need yourself to be the operational partner, and you can also have access to funding in order to play that role. Students are sometimes coming up with very nice and very well-adapted solutions. So I could see in the survey that you had already some partnerships with technical schools, or you were willing to have further partnerships with technical schools. This is really very good because those people are really the ones that are coming up with nice ideas and solutions. If you succeed to get someone who will implement the solutions on the ground, and here we can provide you access to programs and funders that are going to be supportive of that kind of activity with students, you can come up with a local solution that will be really useful to the ecosystem. Here you have an example from Senegal. They did a hackathon at the École Supérieure Polytechnique, and the students came with this idea to make a very simple but very robust vehicle that could be used in rural areas for the transportation of the people, but also the transportation of the production. And they actually succeeded with the support of sponsors and financial partners to make it produced, this vehicle, and it is now being used on the ground. So if you are willing, or if you are having some partnerships with universities, technical schools, it is worth to try to identify some partners that will also finance some really grand project with them, and will be able to give life to the ideas that may come up after hackathons or over startup weekends made at school. You can also assume you cannot find a good partner in your own field of expertise. You're looking for a solution and you cannot see it in the agri ecosystem at international, national level. You may consider to partner with people that are not active in the field of agriculture, but you may provide them with new use of their product, of their technology. Here you have an example from my own incubator. We have a company active in the medical system, and they are very active in Africa, providing some cold boxes that can be used in the field of vaccination, in the field of health. They are interested into diversifying their markets, meaning the solution which is being produced by a partner in France and is being used in Luxembourg and Africa for health can also be applied possibly to agriculture. So you can partner with companies also to provide them with new access to markets with new uses of their solutions. And this is a win-win partnership beneficial to all the partners involved. You can also consider to think wide, not only target the very specific challenges experienced in the field of agriculture, but also try to find solutions to anything in rural areas that is considered challenged by the incubatees. So assumed you have a problem with electricity access because the tariffs are too high, so the people cannot have access to electricity as much as they would like. This is a challenge you can also consider to tackle with the help of partners. And it means you should seek partners in the field of green energy, some people that can improve the infrastructure because they will have some solar powered systems or anything else that is going to solve the challenge of access to energy in rural areas. Water can also be an issue. This is also a field in which you can try to find some partners. I will give you later an example of an organization that is funding specifically projects related to water. Those, even if we are not active in agriculture as such, but in the water nexus, are nice people to have on board because water can be a problem for the farmers. And if you can find some solution that will provide an easier access to water or something that will make clean water more affordable to the people, again, you are changing the infrastructure, changing the settings in the rural areas, in a way that will empower your agribusinesses, and they can are better able to produce the goods and services they are willing to offer. Here is the organization I just mentioned, so the one that is active in the water nexus. So they provide funding for projects in the field. But as you can see, what is interesting here is that they have been very good at understanding that water was related to many other kinds of verticals. So they don't mention agriculture here, but they mention a number of other fields which are related to agriculture, all of them circular economy, energy, food health, sanitation, and so on. So I'm pretty sure if you would approach them with a project related to agriculture, they would be very keen on considering this project and being a partner with you in order to bring something in the field, because they have been able to understand, and of course this is quite obvious, that in the field of agriculture you need also to partner with people that are doing things, all kinds of fields and verticals, if you want to come up with good solutions that will solve the challenges in the ecosystem. So, any questions on this part of the presentation?
We don't have any in the comments, no, Catherine.
Okay, so as you can see, there are different kinds of partners you can seek to address this specific topic. This is a financial partner, so financial organization, foundation that can provide funding. Here you have examples of people that can provide some technical solutions, and as expected, this is coming from innovative businesses. But what is relevant here is that those people, they really have the financial means also to partner with you. So you will not need to pay them, and they can even provide you with a budget in order to do things on the ground, because they are themselves financed to go international and expand their business. And other people that may be relevant are, of course, students, universities, schools, where you can really find also some local solutions. Here you can partner with a foreign school or university that will make a hackathon that can be also both in your own country and in their country. And they can find normally some sponsors and funding also for those activities. You can also seek some prototyping partners as a result in order to implement the things, but this is something I will talk about later on in the presentation. Yes, this is what I wanted to present in this field. So, in my opinion, here we have a lot of technical solutions that may be available and used. This is typically what is needed if you have a problem of infrastructure. I don't know if you would like to make the break right now, or if we continue with the next session and do it afterwards.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Mr. Paulo Matuqueza. I'm from Angola.
Yes.
Yes, please. We at the PCMC incubators in our regions have been incubating several projects in the agribusiness sectors.
Yes.
In the recent years, many of our incubators, our incubators want an international partnership.
Okay.
Since they have several areas of lands that are underutilized. How can we help them as our incubators in terms of international interactions is taking steps now?
Yeah, if they have already identified the international partners they would like to work with, then I guess your role is really to make the partnership efficient. So international partnerships are not easy because you need, to organize things. You need to be really structured. Sometimes you need also to make things happen. So if a partnership is too slow to be implemented, or if the people are facing grand challenges, this is where, in my opinion, the business incubator should play a key role. So tell your incubators that okay, if they have any trouble in implementing the partnership, because they would need to have access to further funding, they would need to have access to a third party that can solve a problem, you can ideally complement the partnerships they would have themselves. So it depends how the partnerships are doing. It depends what maybe the bottlenecks or needs. But very often when I have a company with a partner in Africa, they face at some point some trouble with something, and this is where we can intervene and trying to find another partner that can help, somebody that can provide a solution to a specific thing they didn't foresee in the partnership but is actually needed to be efficient. But you should be aware of exactly what is needed from your incubators. So talk a lot to them and try to identify what is possibly missing or what is possibly not doing that well.
Catherine, we have one more question. Maybe I can
Yes.
say that over. It's from Dimokene. Any examples of partnership to provide telecom solutions for the farmers in isolated areas? So I'll repeat the question. Any examples of partnership to provide telecom solutions for farmers in and isolated areas?
Yes, I have. In fact, I haven't included them in the presentation, but we have a lot of companies here working on the problem of connectivity in rural areas. Technoport is very strong in satellite technologies and so on. So we have some businesses that can provide solution. We have a company also active in one of our international acceleration programs, and they really offer this solution to provide connectivity to isolated areas. They are active normally in the humanitarian field, so they provide this technology to camps of refugees and so on. But if you face a similar challenge in your rural areas, this is a good example of a diversification we could provide to the company, telling them, look, you have a potential market in the field of agriculture, and we can try to build a project for you with a local partner in the field. So yeah, this is something, a very practical example of a collaboration we could have. You, me, and our incubators, I mean the businesses we are working with. Yes, technical solutions in the telecom field are very nice to have to improve infrastructure. So this is clearly a possibility also for partnerships.
Thank you, Catherine. We just have one more comment or question from Paulo Silva asking whether it's possible to interact more after the session. I think the answer, yes.
Yes, definitely. Yes, because this session is really, I'm trying to present a number of different things, trying to show you what can be done. But of course, the objective and idea is really then to focus more on your specific needs and interests. And of course, if I can come up with some very specific partnership options or opportunities for you, I will be very happy to do it. So yes, that's really very good idea to interact also after the session. so that we don't do only training, but also real capacity building and networking, which is actually the scope of BIC Africa.
Great. We'll make sure your contact details are on the slides, etc., that are sent around.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes, when you give the slides to the participants, yes, feel free as well to share my contact details. And we can discuss, the specific questions you may have. But it's already very inspiring to hear, the kind of challenges you are facing, the fact that some incubators already have some international partners. This is a very good start. And also to see that you may have some very specific problems in the field of access to telecommunications and so on that you have already identified. And this is a very good start to start to investigate how we can find people that can help build a consortium of stakeholders that can provide a full solution to the problem. It can be one single business, it can also be a combination of partners. To come up to the first question, which was how can we support the international partnerships of the incubators? Sometimes you need at some point to bring someone else in the loop. I give you an example. I had companies willing to soft land in Burkina Faso, and we put them in touch with some partners there. But we could see that in the specific field of cosmetics, there were a lot of opportunities, but the local partners were not well connected in this specific sector. So we agreed with them to bring in the loop an additional partner that was a business incubator with some people that were making cosmetics at the local level. And we added to the international partnership in the field of agriculture and food processing this capacity building activity of targeting also partners that were making cosmetics, and that created a new output channel for the farmers and for the local products. And we could finance that part of the activity with a foundation from a corporate, a French corporate. I will mention this partner later on in the presentation. So the idea is really to monitor non-stop, the situation of your incubators and the partnerships they have, and really try to identify if there is any problem, and if there is any problem, is there anybody who can help?
Thank you, Catherine. No more questions as yet on the chat.
Okay, so I come back to my question, which is, would you like to make the break now, or do we start the next part of the presentation and make the break later on?
I would suggest a break, Christina.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so too. I think we could have a break now.
Okay.
So 20 minutes, or you prefer 10 and 10, as you prefer, Catherine?
20 minutes is fine to me. We can start again at 1:40.
Okay,
But,
perfect.
it's up to the audience to tell us what they would like to have. But if it's okay, one break of 20 minutes is fine to me.
Okay, great. Then I suggest we reconvene at 1:40 Central European Time.
Okay, good.
Thank you. See you in 20 minutes.
Hi again, Douglas and Catherine. I think we can start when you're ready.
Yeah, that's fine to me. So let me share my screen again.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. We can see it now.
Okay, good. So we can now start with another challenge that you may be willing to tackle with partnerships, which is how can you open access to markets for your incubatees? So is there any partnerships you can use in order to allow your incubatees to get more revenues and be more profitable? This is in principle a core business activity for incubators, a key role that incubators should play in the ecosystem to be able to provide access to clients for their incubatees. Of course, you may not be yet in a position to play that role because you are still possibly struggling to get enough funding to play your role of capacity building and also run some programs for the incubators that are solving some of the needs. But in the long term, you will be in a much better position to support your businesses if you succeed to create an ecosystem that will be more sustainable. And if you provide some options for having access to revenues for the businesses. So a problem you may have, and this is what I had in Burkina Faso when we made a course for agri-entrepreneurs, it can be that your incubators are in fact active on markets that are very, very competitive. So, of course, if they are in such a situation, it is difficult for them to be able to make big profits. It is your role as a business incubator to also encourage the incubators to try to diversify their activities, to try new things that can be more profitable and can bring them more benefits than what they are currently intended to do. If you can influence their business strategy and their business plan and provide the means they need to change their activities and innovate, of course, this is where you have a huge impact in terms of providing access to new revenue sources for the incubators. So the situation in Burkina Faso when we made a call was that the people were doing very similar things. And they typically focused on the activities they knew. That is to say, everybody wanted to produce some onions, everybody wanted to produce honey or tomatoes, and we had very few business ideas that we are focusing on something else, something that would be really new to the market and would be disruptive of the current practices. So what is wrong with current practices? You may think, okay, we know how to do things and okay, we have already done it, so it works. The problem is that to come back to the example of Burkina Faso, sometimes you focus on crops or products that are really international. So you face a lot of competition, not only inside the ecosystem, but also from other countries. Here, as you can see, if I take the example of the producers of onions, Burkina Faso has made a lot of efforts to support the farmers, to support the entrepreneurs. They have become very efficient and the production has greatly increased. But it doesn't mean that their position on the international market has been any better, because in fact, we are still facing competition from other countries. A lot of different countries are producing onions or tomatoes or honey, This is something that is a worldwide production. So if you are trying to compete on this kind of market where the prices are set at international level, it may be very difficult for you as a small producer or entrepreneur to have something distinctive enough to get a lot of revenues. So the idea is also to follow the market trends, so to try to identify what the consumers are starting to buy that is new, but can also provide better profit to the producers, because the product is not only a commodity. You don't sell only a specific kind of agriculture product, but you add something to it that is bringing value to the product that you are selling. To come back to the example of Burkina Faso, we could see it was relevant to train the people in considering to produce some foods that would be healthy, that would be nutrient rich, that provided added value to the production of the farmers. And there was, in fact, a strong demand for local foods. And possibly it was easier for the farmers to consider selling on the local markets that kind of local product that were needed and requested by the consumers, rather than trying to compete on the international markets with a commodity that the people could buy from abroad. So the kinds of partners you may seek in order to support your companies and businesses in considering something new and changing the way they produce are the consultancy organizations and the advisors. Here you have an example of a Dutch foundation who is really bringing a lot of advice and support to African farmers for them to identify where the opportunities are, what they should do in order to be in a stronger economic position on the local and international markets. So this is where the consultancy organizations can help you in changing a bit the strategic focus of the incubators and starting to create new ideas in the ecosystem for something that is not yet there or is there but should be further developed. Another way to change things is to get advice from the universities, the scientists, the researchers that are good in the field of agroecology. And sometimes they can draw your attention towards what we call neglected crops. Those are traditional crops on the markets that the people have stopped producing, but those crops may be good and nice to bring back in the loop because they may be better adapted to your fields and your weather conditions. And often those traditional crops have some health benefits or some features that the other crops, if you buy some seeds that the other farmers are using at international level, you won't have anything that will be that distinctive, and sometimes the nutrients in the production are not as good as what you would get with those neglected crops and products. So the research institutions can really advise you on how you can diversify the production, what you could produce that would be new, how you can have crops that are more resistant, are more sustainable, healthier for the people. Here is an example of a university in Belgium, which is very strong in the field of agriculture. And in fact, they are also very, very active at international level with partnerships. So they are doing a lot of research projects in Africa. So they even have a specific department that was created in order to deal with those partnerships and implement this cooperation strategy that they are willing to have with stakeholders in Africa. So you can liaise with this department and team and see if you could do a project with them in which they would be able to have a look at the situation in your agriculture and advise possibly the producers on what else they could do to diversify the production. And of course, the diversification of the production is relevant only if it brings new revenues, but this is a very good way to create some new access to markets and some new market channels for producers. Another way you can bring additional revenues to the people and opportunities and access to the markets is by improving the local distribution channels. That may be a challenge that your incubators are facing, the difficulty to reach the consumers. You should play a role as an agribusiness incubator in really developing, multiplying, diversifying the commercial channels for your incubators, so supporting them in being able to reach their clients on the field. You always have the theoretical demand that the people are planning to get, but then you have the reality, which is that sometimes they just cannot get access to as many customers as planned. And this is where you should provide the support services that will improve the situation for the incubators. So who can help you in this field? Again, I come back to the marketplaces. The marketplaces are a nice way to connect with people that are not located at the same place. So you can bridge the gap between the urban markets and the rural producers if you provide them the mobile technologies and the marketplaces where they can already have access to the clients, discuss the prices, and make some deals. So here you have an example of an African startup that created such a B2B agricultural marketplace, and that allows the producers to have a better access to customers, but also to better negotiate with those customers. Of course, the more customers you have, the better you are in a position to negotiate a good price for your production and to focus on what is most rewarding and relevant to you. Another partner that can be very useful in terms of distribution and commercial channels are the corporates. This is really where the corporates active in the food industry, but also here you can see in the example a corporate active in the tobacco industry. Those corporates, they have all the commercial distribution channels in place to support your company in reaching customers. At Technoport, in the field of telecom, for instance, we have a partnership with Vodafone, and they already open all their commercial channels to our startup companies. If you want to distribute a new technology in the field of telecommunications, you get their support to do it through this partnership. So the idea for you would be to find some similar partners in agriculture or in the food industry, or again in the tobacco industry or cosmetics industry, some people that are willing to bring new things in their value chain, that are willing to distribute new kinds of products. They make on a regular basis some calls. We are very often involved in such calls for international businesses, for corporates. And here the example I gave you of Philip Morris is indeed an open call. It is open till I think the end of February. We are really currently looking for people that can improve their value chain and the products they supply to their consumers. So in case you would have any tobacco producers in your ecosystems, this is an opportunity you can bring them, and that will hopefully open some new channels and partnerships for them. Access to information is also something that can help. Even if you don't provide directly access to the consumers, you may be willing to tackle a problem, which is the problem of the pricing on the agriculture markets. The prices are typically changing on a daily basis. They are not fixed, they are not stable. And this is a huge challenge for the producers because they never know at what price they will be able to sell their production. So here you have an example of a technical solution that is actually monitoring the prices. They give some benchmarking, they give some advice on what would be a decent price on the international market. And that is a way that supports the producers in being able to understand how much they can sell their products, and if possibly they should wait a little bit before they sell the products, because hopefully the price are going to be better in the near future. And if you have been able to provide them with the storage facilities I mentioned in the previous part of the presentation, this is also a way to support them in having access to the market when it is good for them, and not having to sell on a daily basis whatever they produce, and not having any kind of control about the pricing of the production. You can also, and this is something which is very, very relevant for the incubators, try to provide them directly some clients. So at Technoport, we try a lot to identify the kinds of clients our incubators could serve, and we put them in touch with the incubators. So in the field of agriculture, you have a lot of different kinds of clients that you can target. Some are more rewarding than others, but also more difficult to reach. So if you can play a role through partnerships and collaborations in providing access to the ones that are more beneficial to the agripreneurs, but also more difficult to reach for them, you are providing a very good support to the ecosystem. What you can consider here are, of course, the specialty food markets and the export markets, but also the institutional markets. I'm mentioning the institutional markets because in a number of projects I have, it has worked to connect, in fact, the incubators and the producers with some institutions at local level, with the support of some cooperation agencies, but providing funding for food programs. You have a lot of foundations and associations in the United Nations and international organizations. They are very much engaged into this kind of support program, trying to improve access to food for the people, especially the children. So a solution to find a good customer for your producers is to connect to the schools, connect to the institutions that are providing meals to the people, and encourage them to buy the local food, to really work in a closed loop system with the local producers instead of buying from some large organizations. And here you have an example of a project that was done, which worked very well in connecting the rice producers at local level with the food programs that were funded by governmental institutions. And that way they could acquire the schools as customers for their production. So a way to improve the value and the revenues and the profits of the farmers is also to support them in turning their commodities into higher value products. This is where you should find the partners that are going to help them in producing more sophisticated products. So those are all the processing facilities, the production facilities that can be implemented at local level and offer some new market channels to the producers of goods. A partner which can help is the one that is going to improve the quality of the end product. So if you can make a good food product with a production and you can ensure that the quality of this product is very good, you can sell the products at a higher price. So here we made in Burkina Faso a project in which a local company from Luxembourg, which is a milk processing company, created a processing facility in Burkina Faso and trained the people in producing some milk products that were really of high quality, compliant with the standards in terms of food safety. And that way it opened a new channel for the milk producers. They could sell their production better and at a better price. Organic is something which is really worth to consider. You should support your producers in turning into organic production, because this is very trendy at international level, and the people are willing to pay more organic food than what they would pay for the traditional ones. So again, you can partner with some product that are already organic. I mean, some producers that are already having a lot of expertise in the field of organic production, and they can train and teach your own producers into turning to organic production. And that is a way to create for them some new markets and opportunities, especially at international level. Another trend on the market, which I think is worth to explore and exploit, possibly with the support of some partners, is the trend towards connecting food and health. Whatever provides some health benefits, whatever is good for the people, is much easier to sell at a higher price than something which is just food. So here you have an example of a traditional product that was turned into a healthy drink. And because we could claim some health benefits for the product, it opened some new commercial channels to the producers. They could work with companies in the field of drinks, also companies in the field of health. They could provide the ingredient. They could also provide the drink after processing it on site. And so that was a way to diversify their production and also add value to what they were offering to the target customers. So diversification, you may have already got it, is something that is very, very important to provide to your incubatees. You should think of any kind of markets they could target with their production, which includes, of course, food processing, but not only. Energy is another market they can target. This is relevant because waste in agriculture is actually something useful for green energy purposes. So you may get profits and benefits from something which is currently a cost for the producers, something they don't use and cannot sell. If you partner with some people in the field of energy and they can make use of this waste, you open a new market for the agriculture businesses. Cosmetics and health, I have already mentioned them, are very keen on using some natural ingredients from traditional medicines, some things we don't produce in Europe or in our local ecosystems, and that can be of added value. And if you can connect your incubators with such partners at international level, it can be that they will buy the production and distribute it. So here is this example I mentioned before, this foundation active in the field of cosmetics. Actually, they are a foundation which is representing a very large cosmetics French company called L'Occitane. This foundation is having a lot of projects with producers and agripreneurs in Africa, just to have access to some specific ingredients, some specific products that they can integrate into their product line. So in Burkina Faso, they have been very supportive of a number of agri-businesses. A partnership was made between a local incubator called La Fabrique and this foundation. and the profit for the ecosystem has been quite important, because L'Occitane is then a large client for the incubators. So here, as you can see, the idea is to get the financial partners that are not going to provide only subsidies to do things in a short-term project, but will also provide some recurrent commercial revenues to the people, because this is where you are really creating added value in the ecosystem when you are able to open some commercial channels, so the people are not only just supported to produce, but they also have all the connections needed in order to be effective and self-sufficient in terms of revenues. Here is another example of a foundation that can help. Again, foundation from a corporate. I think in terms of access to markets, the corporates are very good partners. Of course, they are businesses, so this is where you will find some business opportunities for your incubators. This foundation is a foundation from a company you may know, which is having laboratories. They are active in the field of health, nutrition, environmental monitoring, and they are actually interested in supporting projects, businesses, initiatives that can improve the quality of food and nutrition at international level. They are also keen on reducing food waste, so possibly a project that will also support the agripreneurs in reducing the loss and waste they have in their production is something they would be willing to support with money, expertise, and also possibly some test channels for the products that may be beneficial to you incubators. You may also, of course, consider partners in the field of energy. As mentioned earlier, this is really a business field where there are a lot of interests and needs to be able to identify some new sources of green energy as an alternative to the traditional food. This is something that everybody is trying to address. I mean, all the markets worldwide are seeking some solutions that will allow them to get energy from organic waste and not anymore from the sources they have been using until now. So here you have a company, which is a small company, not anymore a corporate, but just a small scale-up company. But they are very good. They are active on a number of African markets, and they are fast expanding. So they have the resources needed to come to your ecosystem if you are interested in partnering with them. And what they offer are some technical solutions that can transform organic waste from agriculture into some electricity and also some clean cooking solutions. And clean cooking solutions at the moment is something that a number of associations and organizations are willing to explore. So if you want to make a project in the field of clean cooking, and you can partner with some people that can provide solutions and involve also your own agripreneurs in the project, the chance that you will be able to get funding from an association or organization for the project is, in my opinion, quite high. That's it for the topic of providing better access to markets for the farmers. Do you have any questions?
There are currently no questions in the chat, Catherine, but of course,
okay.
Please do raise your hand if anyone has a question.
Okay, no problem. So just to recap, I think the obvious partners here are the foundations and corporates, but you can also consider some technical solutions in some verticals related to agriculture where you can find some new things that will open channels for the incubators. The next topic is about partnerships that are going to provide financing options for you entrepreneurs. I spoke in the previous session about how you can improve their revenues. But of course, this is something you can do only if you are in a good position already, and they are not struggling on a daily basis just to do their basic operations. So diversification is a bit of a luxury, but you will be able to have access to only if you succeed at the beginning to find some financing options for you entrepreneurs that will allow them to be sustainable. So let's see what are the financing options available in the field of agriculture. Obviously, it is a challenge. It's not easy to find some financial options for people active in the field of agriculture. This is because it is a difficult business, which is quite risky. You may lose the production at some point. It is also traditional business. So the venture capital funds or private investors tend to invest more into technology fields. Not many of them have an interest and knowledge in the field of agriculture. So clearly this is a big challenge to find some financing options for you incubators. But let us try to identify a few examples of things that are available and are working quite good. The partners that can help are the ones that are giving loans to the farmers. So some financial institutions that are willing to take the risk of providing a loan to a small farmer and be patient enough to wait until the loan can be reimbursed. They will also not be too demanding in terms of interest rates, because what they do, in fact, is that they connect donors, foundations, governmental institutions, corporates. They get funding from those donors, and then they make some loans to the farmers. So this is the kind of intermediary that can provide access to some investors that would probably not invest directly in agriculture, but will make some donations to such intermediaries to support some businesses in African countries. NGOs are also very active in the field of microcredit. So here you may be able to identify some partners active in your country that can provide some support. One example is Green Hope. They are providing microcredit to the farmers. And they also train, of course, the people in using the microfinancing options that they offer. So this is a good partner in the field of financial inclusion. There's only one example, but from a general point of view, I can support you in identifying NGOs, associations that would be useful for solving this problem of having access to funding for the farmers. But you can also think of the financial institutions. A lot of business incubators have a partnership with a local bank. This is because the bank may be interested, whether they have a foundation or not, in fostering financial inclusion. Of course, it is their own interest to do it, but there's nothing wrong with that. They are trying to get new clients, but helping the people having access to financing. But it can be beneficial to you entrepreneurs as well. So it's a kind of win-win situation. And here you have an example of a bank called Citi. They have a foundation and they are very active globally in many, many different countries with many, many different partners in order to make projects that are fostering financial inclusion. So you can consider to contact them and see if you can do something in your own country. Assume you cannot find a local bank that is willing to play this role, but it can be that you also have some good partners at a local and national level. Finca International is another example I wanted to give you, because what I like in their model is that they solve the financing problems of the people at a broader level. So what is relevant in this institution is that they provide financing solutions not only to the farmers themselves for their own activities, but also to the family members of the farmers. And they support a lot the family members in establishing some micro businesses, so some side activities on top of agriculture. They can support some crafts, they can support a number of activities that can be implemented in the rural areas. So this partner is nice because they can provide a whole solution to the problem of the entrepreneurs that don't have enough revenues in the rural areas, because they really support the ecosystem as a whole, targeting people in rural areas and not only agripreneurs alone. ADA is another organization that is interesting because they have a business model where they provide money through the entire value chain. It is an organization in Luxembourg. I know them very well. I can put you in touch with them if you want. It is an NGO that is providing funding resources to the people, and they support not only producers and people active in agriculture, but also all the people who are suppliers to the farmers, and the people who are processors, and also the people who are retailers. So you can see that they can provide a full solution that is going to inject money in the value chain wherever it is needed to make the ecosystem more sustainable and efficient. And they can help you a lot in building also sustainable value chains and production chains. So if you are in such a situation in which you having problems with a specific part of a value chain and you don't know how to develop that part of a value chain in your country, they can provide a lot of support with financial resources, but also advice. This is a problem we had in Burkina Faso. You remember, I told you we had a lot of producers and processors, but no suppliers. If you are in such a situation, you can make a project with ADA where we are going to work together on seeing how we can address the gaps in the value chain and making it more productive and self-sufficient. Insurance is also something which is interesting to mention. This is not about providing revenues to the people, money to really make new activities, but it tackles the problem of the loss the farmers may experience, the risks, in fact, in the field of agriculture. I said that many investors, they are reluctant to put money in agriculture because the risk that something may be lost and there are no revenues and no return on investment is too high. If you partner with the companies that are going to provide insurance solutions to the farmer, and the farmers are compensated in case bad weather conditions happen or they lose the production for anything that is not related to them and is not under their control, this is a way to make the businesses in a better position to have access to funding opportunities because the risk is going to be decreased. So OCO is one scale-up we have at Technoport that is providing insurance solutions to the farmers. They are very active in Africa and they offer directly insurance solutions and they pay for the losses in case there is any incident happening during the year and the crops are being lost. We have another scale-up offering also some insurance products to agripreneurs. It is called Ibiza. The difference in the model is that Ibiza is working with local insurers and financial institutions. So, as you can see, you have a way to foster insurance solutions in your ecosystem, whether you have or not the support from the local institutions. If you have a local insurance company that is willing to do something and offer a new service to you entrepreneurs, you can partner with them and our technology supplier Ibiza to try to do something in the country. If you don't have such a partner and you are willing to address directly the needs of the farmers, then you can turn to the kind of solutions that is being offered by OCO. So again, the idea is really to study what you have available at the local level, who you can reach in your own ecosystem, and try just to fill in the gaps, not adding something that is already there and can be leveraged, but just bringing the missing parts in the ecosystem that are preventing the ecosystem from being sustainable enough to be relevant for the investors. Those are solutions I wanted to share with you. There are not so many of them, but okay, you can surely identify foundations, associations, or technical solutions in the field of microfinance that hopefully can improve the situation of your incubatees. Do you have any questions about this challenge of access to funding?
There are no questions. Larissa made a comment that Madagascar it was a shame that Madagascar wasn't on one of the lists of one of the countries.
On the list where?
I think the one before this slide, if I...
This slide, okay. I don't know which year you mean. Yeah, it can be that a foundation or a partner you would like to work with is not active in your country. So in this case, it is still worth to get in touch with them and ask them if they would be willing to do something. Maybe they don't have a local partner to do something, and this is the reason why they are not active in your area. It can be as well that they just don't want to go to your country because they want to have a local staff or a local office to operate. But it's still worth to try. You know, it can be that they are not active in Madagascar just because they have not yet identified a good local partner to support them in their activity. And it may be that they are not reluctant to be active in your country, but they just have had no chance to partner with someone. In this case, you, as a new entrant, or as the first one who is going to offer the service to the ecosystem, you are also in a good position to provide something distinctive to your incubatees. So, yeah, if you are not on the list, don't be too disappointed, to at least try to investigate the reason why you are not on the list. And you can still try to convince those people to start doing something in your country. But as you can see, ADA, in contrast, is active in Madagascar, and yeah, they provide more or less the same kind of services as this foundation TechnoServe. So don't worry if someone is not available to you. We can investigate and try to find an alternative.
Some have also made the point that that's the case for Somalia as well in some of
these. Yes, that's true. Yeah, Somalia, yes, that's true, is not that well covered for some reason. Those examples are all from my own projects and programs. I'm working a lot, of course, with Luxembourgish institutions And yeah, Somalia is not one of the countries where we have a lot of connections and projects. But again, it doesn't mean the people don't want to do something in Somalia. It can just be that they have not yet the collaborations in place to identify relevant stakeholders or to get project business ideas from the country. So it is something I can also do to talk with my partners and institutions, ask them if they would be interested in doing something in Somalia. And if so, I can also support them in identifying the business incubators on the field that can support their activities to give you a positive thing in terms of collaborations with NGOs and cooperation agencies. At least in Luxembourg, I see a lot of interest in business incubation from those stakeholders. In the past, they did projects mainly with NGOs or communities of people and so on. Now they have got it, but it was very efficient and relevant for them to partner with some local businesses and do it through a local incubator that can be already the local partner for the implementation of a project with local companies. So here you have a trend which may be beneficial to you because the willingness to provide support to the private businesses in the target countries is, in my opinion, higher now than before. Again, we can also discuss after the presentation in the future to also try to identify partners that are relevant for a specific country. This presentation was made based on people that were active in many different African countries that were a bit Pan-African, but of course they don't cover everybody. So we also need to investigate a little bit more who would be most interesting for a specific regional ecosystem. But if you have the ability to start from scratch a project or collaboration, meaning you can find the local partners that people will need to do a project, this again is very, very relevant for cooperation agencies. They like the partners that can be multipliers and can provide them access to some local market players they wouldn't be able to reach themselves.
Excellent.
Any,
Thanks, Catherine. There's no more comments in the chat.
Okay.
If people want to put their hand up, but otherwise, please carry on.
Okay, so the next challenge is the challenge of climate change. It is not a top priority challenge for your incubators, at least if I have a look at the answers you gave to the survey, but climate change is something that at international level, a number of organizations, foundations, and institutions are willing to tackle. So that may be a source of finance for your activities and your incubators, because this global challenge is something that everyone is trying somehow to address. And of course, the impact of climate change is already visible in Africa. So it can be that your incubators are facing more and more devastating floods. So in contrast, a lack of water, and in the field of agriculture, more specifically, the impact on the businesses is quite dramatic. So what is interesting in climate change is that it is a very broad topic and area. sometimes it is difficult to find something that is really a practical ground solution to the problem. The people are more exchanging on what can we do in the future to improve the situation. But the positive aspect is that everybody is more or less interested in the topic. So that means that whatever kind of partner you consider, whether you want to work with the providers of technical solutions or the funding actors or the local governments or international organizations, you may find some people that are willing to do a project in this area with you and your incubators. Academia, universities are also making a lot of research on the topic, and possibly some results from this research is something that can be useful to your incubators in their daily activities, because it is a way to mitigate the impact of the climate on the soil of a production in the field of agriculture. So international organizations are offering a lot of programs, but the private financial institutions are also providing funding for some new technologies, products, solutions with a positive impact on the climate. A number of NGOs are active and even specialized in climate change. So a good practice is there to try to identify the ones that are going to provide the practical solutions you may be interested in, because you don't want, as a business incubator, to just create awareness about climate change, but you want to also find some grand solutions that can be beneficial to your businesses. So in this case, a good way to do things, practical things in your own industry, is to talk to the incubators and the accelerators worldwide that are active in this topic of climate change. Some accelerators, incubators are specialized in this area. They work only with companies and entrepreneurs that are having an impact and are providing solutions to climate change. And those are the ones that have the practical tools that can support you incubatees in finding solutions to the problem. You have access to organizations that are going to be specialized accelerators, as I just mentioned, in the field of climate change, and they really support entrepreneurs. So it means they are not only making some exchanges, events where they discuss the problem of climate change. They are really looking for the market players that have some solutions that need to be tested and implemented. And this is where you can provide support to them, and they can provide support to you. You can really test on the ground some solutions and see to which extent it will be beneficial to you incubators. Another important aspect of this topic of climate change is that it is actually relevant to the funds. The social private equity funds are very active in trying to tackle this problem of climate change. It is somehow a trend. I worked previously in the venture capital industry. To be honest, the people, they have some topics that come up and they are very excited about it, and then they switch to something else. This is the way we work in the financial industry. But this is something you can use, saying, okay, I have some people active in the field of agriculture. They are facing this problem of climate change on the ground, and if you want, we can co-develop with you some solutions to the problem. And then the venture capital fund may be keen on providing money for a solution that could be applied at international level and would improve the problem of climate change. Another relevant aspect from this example I give you, I chose this specific venture capital fund, not only because they are active in the field of agriculture and there are not so many of them willing to provide money to the farmers and the agripreneurs, But I also chose them because, as you can see, they get funding from the diaspora. Douglas gave you already, I think, a presentation on this important topic of being able to use the diaspora as partners to support your activity. They are clearly a source of technical solutions, skills, expertise, but also money for your incubators and your incubators. So anything that can support you in mobilizing the diaspora, anything that can give you access to those partners is something which is worth to be considered and investigating. Technology providers you may use. Here are some examples of practical solutions that are already doing something on the ground with some agripreneurs in African countries. We have a company in Luxembourg doing some spatial modeling to combat the impact of climate change. They are using satellite technologies to monitor the weather conditions and the conditions on the ground. Typically, when I talk about this company to some partners, incubators, they say, "Oh, this is super sophisticated, surely super expensive. We don't need that, it's too complex to use." In fact, it's not. As you can see on this slide, we could do a successful project in Niger with some local partners where the technologies were successfully used and implemented on the ground. And we got funding from the cooperation agency in Luxembourg to make the project. So the farmers could have access to the technologies for free. And in terms of pricing, I mean, this company is, of course, not charging the small market players in emerging countries the way they would charge the normal clients they may have elsewhere. Clearly, they have themselves some partnerships with NGOs, institutions, and cooperation agencies, meaning they provide not only the technology solution, but also the money to implement the solution. You can provide access to your incubators to such technologies at no cost. Another thing you can try to do to tackle climate change, this is another kind of approach, another kind of technical solution to challenges, is to foster alternative production means in your ecosystem. So this is something you may already do to try to investigate to which extent hydroponic production would be possible in your country. It is a nice solution because it tackles the problem not only of the poverty of soils, so the fact that you may not use soils the way you used to use them to produce high quality foods because of climate change. The soils are not that productive anymore. But it is also a way to tackle the challenge I addressed first, the ones of having access to the markets, the distribution channels, because the hydroponic production is possible also closer to the cities. It's possible basically everywhere. So if you provide those production means to the people, it is a good way to develop your agriculture. Not only you make it smarter, but you also facilitate the implementation of new businesses in new areas. Another solution is to diversify the production towards products that will not require extensive land use. If you are short in terms of lands the farmers can use and have access to in your country, or if the soils are not that good anymore, you are facing extreme conditions, that means you cannot produce as many products as you would like to feed the people and provide products to the markets. You can switch to producing some food products that are not requiring land use. This is typically the case of mushrooms. In many African countries, we could see an interest for consuming mushrooms So we started to support the local people in making production of mushrooms. And here you have an example of a project in Rwanda, but we have done it too in Burkina Faso, where the market for mushrooms was actually quite good. We can support you in training your entrepreneurs in starting a new kind of production, providing you with the expertise and the facilities they would need to produce some new kinds of products. Any questions on that part?
Again, none in the
Okay. As you can see, I come back again and again to the same similar topics, which are that as business incubators, the partners you have should be able both to provide resources to the ecosystem, but also induce a shift, induce a change in the long term that is going to create opportunities in the ecosystem. It is very important to try to tackle not only the daily actual needs of the people, but also to be able to make the ecosystem more sustainable in the long term. It is a difficult task, but some short-term projects can also induce change in the long term that is going to shift the local economy towards something more diversified or more productive or more efficient in terms of generating revenues for the people. Okay, so if we don't have any questions, we can switch to the next topic, which is partnerships for modernizing agriculture. So what is the challenge here? Sometimes you may have farmers that are not that efficient in production just because they have limited access to mechanization and equipment. So this is where you may find some partners, especially from technical providers that can provide some equipment to the farmers that will make it easier for them to produce with less human resources, so less efforts and a better result. This is where the research organizations are very relevant to you. So CIRAD is a research institution specialized in the field of agriculture, and they provide a lot of advice in the field of digital agriculture, so how you can have access to technologies and equipment that will help. But they have also a lot of expertise in agroecology. This is useful because it's not always relevant to push for digital technologies when they are not needed. So it's good to have this combination of expertise that will really have a look and say, look, this is where you should need to provide some new tools and technologies to the people. And this is where you can just change the processes in the industry, and that will already create an impact. Of course, we come back also to the alternative production means in this topic, a way to provide some equipment to the people that is going to be relevant is to help them produce more using some technologies. Here you have an example of solar power stations that can support the people who are producing onions in having a better production and mitigating, the changes they may have in terms of weather conditions. So that way you can have a more stable and sustainable production. Water, again, is also an area where you can provide some technical solutions and digital technologies to the people with huge impact. Sometimes the problem of water is not only that you lack water, but there are many losses because the irrigation systems, the water distribution systems are not in a good state in the country. So if you are facing this kind of problem, you can provide some solutions that will monitor, water access and the distribution channels, and that can be a way to have access to mechanization of the production means in the rural areas with sustainable and stable access to the resources you need to be efficient. Another partner which is interesting is also that company that is tackling the problem of pests, and in fact they do it from the side of packaging, food packaging. This is another sector where you can seek partners that will be beneficial to you entrepreneurs. Packaging and innovation in the field of packaging with smart bags are one option to support your farmers in addressing the challenges they may have of food and production loss. So this is an African company. They work together with some NGOs and foundations. So again, they are well funded themselves to expand and make projects with people in Africa. So if you're interested into investigating this kind of new packaging and storage bags, that can be something you can try and can possibly bring added value to you entrepreneurs. Mechanization is also related, of course, to the farming equipment. So instead of doing things by hand or with limited mechanical resources, if you can have access to some equipment, you will be more productive. We have a Technoport corporation called Carraro that is actually making systems for agricultural vehicles. And they have a strong interest in doing things in African countries, so testing new kinds of vehicles or systems that can be adapted to the needs of the farmers on the field. So this is a kind of corporate you can possibly partner with. If you would like to see how you can bring some agricultural equipment to the people in the country as a way to modernize the production. If you don't want or need to bring the producers, something else you can consider is again this idea of the marketplaces and mutualization of the resources. It can be that the reason why the farmers don't use mechanization is that they don't have the financial means to buy equipment. In this case, you have some innovative business models supported by mobile technologies that allow the people to share equipment, so they can arrange to have some renting of equipment whenever they need it. And in fact, the resources are available to many different farms in the country. Another important way to modernize the production is to foster new ways of production that are organic. I told you we had this problem in Burkina Faso of really reinforcing this part of the value chain. That was the innovation we really needed in the ecosystem. And we could partner with a company from Benin. They are really a very successful African startup, meaning they are going international. They even have patents and certified production means. And they provide really organic fertilizers and pesticides that are used in Africa and can really support the production of food. They are also relevant, this company, because they are the only example I have of a certification partner active in Africa. They really train the people in using organic fertilizers, but also in being organic in the production chain, meaning they can be certified, and that gives them access to the European markets. So that may be something you may need in terms of partnerships, someone who can support your companies in exporting food production or products from agriculture. If you have this need for certification, you can get it from, of course, consultancy companies that can train the people on the European rules and so on. But you can also consider to have a partnership with a company like Biofito, which can both do capacity building in the field of certification and processes, and provide the technical tools and solutions that you may be willing to implement on the ground to have an impact not only in terms of capacity building, but also from a very practical point of view, have a role that will make a change directly on the markets and at the production sites. IoT is, of course, here very relevant. So I don't know where you are from the point of view of working with entrepreneurs that can develop IoT solutions. The technical schools can provide here a lot of solutions and business ideas. If you don't have them at the local level, you can also partner with companies abroad that will bring you such solutions. This is, of course, the easiest and the best way probably to start with modernization of agriculture, to consider using IoT solutions. Here, again, the technical schools are probably able to support you at local level, but you may not have access to the right students, so you may not have the right partnership with them. Here I give you an example. In Burkina Faso, we made a lot of calls in agriculture, and we wanted to have the people who would bring IoT solutions. We never got them. All the business ideas we had were from traditional businesses and food processing and so on. Nobody came up with IoT tools. So we made another call, not for agriculture, we made a call for projects in the field of engineering. And this is where we had a lot of people with solutions that could be applied to agriculture. So it is maybe worth to consider to step back a little bit from agriculture if you look for such technical solutions and target directly the engineers, just asking them what they can do in the field of IoT, and you will find there probably some solutions that can be used and adapted to your needs in the field of agriculture. If you don't have such partners, so the students don't come up with actual practical business ideas that can be implemented, something which is worth is to partner with hardware incubators or maker spaces, something like this. This is where you can produce at local level some solutions, where you can make some events, where the local communities are going to try together to come back with new products and technologies. There is such a hardware incubator in Ghana, and we are partnering with other business incubators in different verticals in order to co-develop solutions. So this is a good partnership model, in my opinion. Now, if you don't have such a space in your country, or if you don't want to partner with them because they are not open to supporting you entrepreneurs, I had this problem with the Orange Fab. I thought I could partner with Orange Fabs in many African countries in my projects, but they are not that open to support entrepreneurs from local incubators. They want to hire directly some entrepreneurs they work with. Then you can consider to create your own facility. If you have a room, a facility you can use and where you can put some machines, it is not that difficult to create a small prototyping space. We have done it in many countries with the support of a cooperation agency. Actually, they provide funding for the people who are willing to create such creation facilities and maker spaces in their business incubator. And it's not that difficult to get the money to buy the basic technologies of 3D printers, the electronic kits, and so on. that will be useful for you entrepreneurs to be able to innovate and create themselves some technical solutions. But as mentioned earlier, better production doesn't necessarily rely on technology. If you don't want to go in the direction of partnering with people providing technologies, you can also partner with people that are active in the field of environment, and they can come up with very simple solutions, so what they call simple solutions, but it's not that easy to identify them if you don't have the expertise. But they really train and advise the farmers and producers in producing differently by doing intercropping, so mixing their production with some other kinds of plants or products that can play the role of being, for instance, a pest repellent and protect the production from the pest. That's it for the question of access to technologies. Do you have any specific questions?
I see no questions on the chat, and just to say, about 5 minutes left, Catherine, before the
yes, I know, but we are almost done. So
yeah.
normally we should be good with the timing, don't worry, because I'm now starting the last part of a presentation, which is how we can possibly find some partners for better policies in the field of agriculture. I could see that was a need from the participants, but to be honest, it is something I'm a bit struggling with, because the fact is that those policies is not something that you have under control in your country. So usually when I make some presentations to business incubators, I highlight that there are things in the models that you can control and influence, and things that are much more difficult to deal with. So the partners, the products and services you offer to the people, the sales and marketing channels for your incubators, and the value proposition are all the things that, in my opinion, you are in a very good position to influence and change. In contrast, what is more difficult is to change the global economic context in which the entrepreneurs are operating, the political decisions, and also to some extent the strategies of the big players, of the big corporates and the big market players can prevent you from developing what you would like to develop, because they have over interests and another focus when they want what you would like them to handle. So policies is not something that is that easy to change, but of course it doesn't mean you shouldn't try to get good connections to people that will help you in at least raising awareness. And what is good to create here is to have at least opportunities for public debate, so having access to the people that can change things in a way that you can sometimes make the voice of your incubators heard by the public institution. So this is an example of something we do at Technoport on a regular basis. We do what we call a Deep Tech Ventures Summit, where we bring all the decision makers and the politicians together with the entrepreneurs, with the business incubators in the country, with the researchers, with the civil society. Everybody gathers, and we identify some specific challenges we have in a specific vertical, and we discuss how together we can possibly find some solutions. So how can you create something similar in your country, where you can partner with the universities, the research institutions, and the international experts if you succeed to make them come to your country, and you can get funding from the embassies and the cooperation agencies in order to create such bilateral events. This is a good way to start the discussion with some best practices from abroad, and also some opportunities for the local people to exchange of their own needs and challenges and what they would like to do. We did such an event in Burkina Faso. I say we, in fact, it was a local incubator that did it. They did it with the support of European experts and universities, and the topic was how we can encourage the people to start buying and consuming local food instead of preferring the products that are being imported to the country. So circular economy is a good topic to change things. If you can induce some policies in this field, you can start making a change. Embassies and cooperation agencies can also help you in talking to you government and you top decision makers. We did it in Burkina Faso again with the support of the embassy from Luxembourg. We gathered some businesses, some NGOs, some associations, and we invited the Ministry of Agriculture. And that was a way to draw their attention on the fact that we had to do something to develop a digital agriculture in the country with some support policies to foster adoption of technologies. The partners you can have on top of the ones that you would like to would help you in organizing events are the ones that can bring the citizens and the crowd engage with citizens for making the discussions fruitful. Here you have an NGO specialized in this kind of community engagement. You can consider using them when you want to do something in order to have access to the communities. And this is an example of a technology you can use. It is a way you can connect people that are not at an event with the ones that are there. So challenge can be for the farmers to come to the events because they are far away or they are too busy. You can use some interactive technologies where they can on-site and live interact with the decision makers if you succeed to gather them and get their interest in a discussion. That's it. I am done just on time. But if you have any questions, we can take a couple of minutes to answer them.
Of course, if there are any questions, then please just put them in the chat or put your hand up. As people may be thinking anyway, let me just thank you so much for all the participants here today. Thank you, Catherine, for such an interesting presentation and discussion and with so many practical examples, and also for being open for being contacted afterwards, I think, for this sort of type of partnership search. Christina, maybe I could hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Douglas. From my side as well, I would just like to thank Catherine very much for the very interesting presentation and very, very useful tips. Thank you, Douglas, as well for being here and for the moderation, and thanks to all the participants for being here, for benefiting from this session. We hope that that it was really useful for you, and as promised, we will send you the presentation slides and also the contact details of Catherine by email. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks to you. So I spoke a lot, maybe too much, but I tried to provide as much food for thought as I could. And then, again, don't hesitate to interact on an individual basis if you have some more specific questions or practical things you would like to discuss.
Thanks, everyone.
Dimona, would you like to ask anything?
No. Just thanking Catherine and all the other participants. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, I believe we can close the session then. Thanks again to everyone, and hope you enjoyed.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.